This is an overview for cotton using Auburn University's license of Medius.Re. Typically when you're coming to a site, you're going to be coming for three particular reasons. First, you were given a variety name and you want to find information about it. Or two, you know some traits that you're looking to pare down varieties and find some top 10 lists or a top 5 lists. Or three, you don't know quite what you're looking for or what's available, and you just want to be able to browse the data and come up with a good result at the end. So let's go ahead and look at the first way, and that is you come to the site and you're looking for a particular variety. Let's say someone gave you a variety to look up DP1725. So you would come right here into this modal. So you'd come right here to this input and you would type 1725 and it's going to pare down that variety list for you, and then go ahead and select the DP1725. In the summary modal, what you're looking at is these are all of the different locations, what we call trial blocks, where this variety has been tried and the years in which data is available. If there's a featured image, it would show up here. There is none in this variety's case. And then if there's a data sheet that's been linked to it as well, you can see a preview of that data sheet as well as the link to the breeder's site or the company's site. So if you were to click on that link, it will take you to that link where you can find out more information about that variety. Then if there's any trait information that's been added about the variety, you'll find that information down here below. But you're looking to find some high-level trial information. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at this variety that's been tried across all of these different locations, grouped by the regions in which they were tried. So we can see the breakdown here of each year and the number of variety records available for each one of these regions that we're looking at. And then we get all of our nitty-gritty data. Again, we're looking at the high-level view here. So for example, in lint yield for on-farm, here is your value. So we're looking at that pounds per acre here. And then if you want to drill down and get more detailed information about that lint yield, just go ahead and click on that and it will give you a breakdown of all the values that make up the average value. And you can do that for any one of these data fields that are available. So this gives you a high level view at looking at variety information, data that's available for a particular variety. Now let's go ahead and get a little bit more granular and let's actually look for some things that we're trying to find. So I'm going to go here to query variety and I'm just going to look at the latest crop year 2020, and I'm interested in knowing a variety that has a yield that is greater than 1,500 pounds per acre. And then I want to find one that has turnout that is greater than 45%. And I am interested in only dry ground because I don't irrigate. So I'm going to go ahead and select dry. Then I'm going to hit search. And what this gives me is a result of the 6 varieties that match the particular query that I've asked for. So in trial year 2020, with a lint yield greater than 1,500, turnout percentage greater than 45% on non-irrigated or dry ground. Now, as I look down through here, I can see some of these varieties have multiple years of data available to me. Some of them only have single years. I'm going to take out the varieties that only have single years and just leave the 4 that have multi-year data. So now that we have those 4 varieties selected, let's go ahead and click on compare. And now we can get a side-by-side look at these varieties. So the first thing you'll see here is that this indicates up here how we arrived at selecting these 4 varieties. It was through this query that got us there. And then you'll be able to see the blocks that those varieties were a part of, as well as the year that we selected 2020 and how many variety records are available for each variety. And then similarly to what you saw in the variety modal, you're going to see these average values for each one of these varieties for the appropriate data field. Like the variety modal, you can click on any one of these values and you can get the detailed breakdown of all of the values that make up that average. If you want to look at that across all of the varieties, just click on the data field over here. It will expand it out and show you each one of these values for the particular data field that you expanded. And you can see any one of the other values available to you. So this is really handy to be able to compare these varieties side by side. But let's say as you're looking at this, you notice, well, okay, there's 10 varieties, 21, 8, and 16 variety records here for each one of these varieties. Am I really getting a true comparison, or some of these varieties being skewed because there's more or less data available for them? In that particular case, you can come up here to the top and turn on correlated data. And correlated data will only show you the values where all of the varieties existed in the exact same trials. That way you're truly getting a fair comparison of these varieties. So that's a quick look at how to query for a variety and then look at it in comparison. There's a lot more you can do in comparison, from downloading all this data into an Excel sheet, exporting it as an image if you need to use it, sharing it with a link to a friend, or you can even continue to filter out additional data. So let's go ahead and look at the third reason why you might come to the site looking for data. You might not know exactly the variety that you're looking for or the specific parameters that you want for the data fields that you're interested in, but you know in general there are certain data fields or certain traits that are of importance to you, and you want to know what are the best varieties for those traits. So to do that, let's go ahead and go to Analytics. What you're going to see in this particular case for Auburn is by default it's going to pre-select our lint yield for us and show us the current trial year of 2020. So now what we're looking here in all of this data is we have each one of these trial locations here grouped by the research station that they were in and the value for each variety. And we have that going all the way across and including on-farm data here, as well as the current year's average for each one of those regions and a multi-year average. So this gives you the ability to compare varieties across time and space and across multiple data fields, which we'll look at in a minute. This might be a little too much for me to digest here right away. I might not be interested in the on-farm and only interested in some of these other sites. So I'm going to come up here to filters. I'm going to go to my trial blocks, and I'm going to say again, hey, I don't have irrigated ground. I just want these dry locations. So I'm going to go ahead and select just these dry trial block locations that have to do with OVT, and then rebuild analytics. And I can close that. So now what you see is we're looking at a pared down view of our data set to where it's only inclusive of these dry locations for 2020. And then you can sort easily by clicking on any one of these headers here to be able to sort the column in order of descending or ascending. Now what you'll notice here is that there's color coordinated indicators that go with the values. This is to help you be able to understand the amount of data in a faster, more understandable way. Anything that is green is going to be the maximum value, as you see up here. Anything that is red is going to be the minimum value for that column. And then anything that is shaded blue is going to be above average, and the shading color will change the further away from the average that you get. And anything that is shaded yellow is below the average or below the mean. And that's done by using z-scores and standard deviation. So you can get a little insight into how those z-scores work if you want by coming up here to the analytics settings and turning on show z-scores. And then you will notice that your z-score values are indicated below the actual value that you're looking at. But I'm going to go ahead and turn those off because we're only interested in the actual value. While we're in analytics settings here, let's go ahead and look at this powerful tool called Column Data View. So currently we're looking at the current year. So this value represents 2020. But what if I wanted to look at multi-year values for each location? All I have to do is turn on multi-year. And now what I see is this is the multi-year average. So 2018 to 2020 for this variety in this location. And then you'll notice there's a little y and there's a little L value here. What the y is telling me is that is the, as you can see up here, the number of years that are available in that value, and L is the number of locations that are represented in that value. So in this particular case, even though we are asking for 3 years worth of data, this particular variety only has 2 years worth of data. This variety has 3 years, this one has 1 year, and etc. So this gives you an easy way to be able to look at multi-year data specific to a location, as well as the current year's averages, and then of course the multi-year averages grouped by region over here. I'm going to go ahead and turn that back off so we go back to looking at our current year, and then let's take a little bit deeper dive into what we can do with analytics. So this is great. We've looked at our current year average, and let's actually go to multi-year average over here and sort this. So I've now got my multi-year average sorted by total, and I can see that this DP1646 variety is the one that over a 3-year period performed the best across all of my locations for lint yield. But I'm interested in more than just lint yield. So that's where we come back up here to our data field list, and let's actually add in now this lint turnout percentage, and then it will ask us to rebuild our analytics as it fetches that data and then builds the analytics based on that data it fetched. Now you'll see we have lint yield here and lint turnout. So again, if I go back and I'm sorting by my 3-year average here, this DP1646 is the variety that I have at the top. But now when I go to lint turnout, oh, where did that variety go? It's buried down here somewhere in my list, and that can be kind of confusing to understand where all your varieties are and in what order, and they're bouncing around. And so you're looking at lint yield, then you're looking at turnout, and let's say you add 3-4 other data fields that you're trying to compare. It can be confusing to try to keep track of the ranking where those varieties went. And that is where this total score averages comes into play. So if you click on total score averages, what we're looking at here now is these are the average z-scores for all the data fields that you selected. So what that allows us to do is it allows us to make like comparisons across multiple data fields, multiple locations, and multiple years, and get you down to a single value that indicates the performance of a variety across all of those selected data fields. And so what we see here now is when we're sorting by our multi-year average, then these are the varieties that now bubble to the top. And we were looking before at that DP1646, we see that dropped a little bit when we added our lint turnout to the equation. If you aren't interested in a straight one-to-one average, we do give you the ability to come up here and adjust your data field weight. So you can click on that, and then you can change these weights to anything that you want. And you can see as I change those weights that the values were updating here. So we'll go ahead and we'll leave it at that, weighted percentage. So now I've kind of got my top tier list here. I'm going to go ahead and select, I want just my top 5 varieties here, right? So I've got 5 selected. Now if you remember, when we were querying by varieties and we were trying to find our top list and then we jumped over to compare, we're going to do the same thing here in analytics. So I've selected these varieties I'm interested in. I come up here to my compare selected varieties tool, and that's going to take me right back here to this compare varieties page that we were looking at before with the varieties I selected here available for me to give me the option to dive in deeper. Because we knew we had good performance for lint yield, for lint turnout, but I now want to know what is some of this other information that's going to tell me more about these varieties to give me more insight into how this variety is performing. So those are 3 quick ways that you can kind of pare down and find varieties that are of interest to you. There's a lot more that you can find here on the site. Feel free to play around. Things like document library, where you can find reports that have been uploaded, where you can find different white paper documents that add additional information to the variety data that you're looking at, and you have all of that available at your fingertips by just going to Document Library. So take a look around, see what you can learn about cotton data using Auburn University's license.